Hey, editing my short film, and I'm running out of time. What's up, it's a Culture Detective here, investigating your favorite albums, and today I'm going to be doing the fourth classic album review in this seven-album run, or seven-album review run. And of course, this album is going to be Dead Kennedys' Fresh Fruit for Rotting Vegetables. So, Dead Kennedys is an iconic Californian hardcore punk band. They formed in the late 70s and released their debut album in the year 1980 with Fresh Fruit for Rotting Vegetables. And the band at that time consists of vocalist Jello Biafra, guitarist East Bay Ray, bassist Klaus Fluoride, and drummer Ted. That's his name, Ted. And this album is probably one of the most iconic and influential hardcore punk albums of all times. And I love that shit. And yeah, this album has 14 tracks, but it is only 33 minutes in change. A lot of the tracks here on this album are a matter of a minute or 2 minutes long. And as expected, this is a hardcore punk album from the early 80s. It criticized the government for literally everything and criticizes a lot of socio-political issues as well. Everything ranging from wealth gap to drug prescription, the military, class struggle, and a couple years after this one, they released their sophomore album, Plastic Surgery Disasters / In God We Trust Inc., which is also an amazing and iconic punk rock album. That album, in my opinion, is even more exhilarating and fun than the debut album, and it has a more creative sonic palette. But if you want to talk about iconic, it is Fresh Fruit for Rotting Vegetables, because Dead Kennedys' most well-known tracks also turn up on this album, which I will get to in a minute or two. But yeah, what I can say is a lot of the tracks on this album sound pretty similar, but it is the anger, the speed, the violence of which these songs consistently exhibit is what makes this album such a damn punch to the face. The guitars and the bass are very speedy and fiery and muscular. Almost on every single track, they bang out this new riff that is groovy, catchy, yet at the same time extremely aggravating and violent. And then we have Jello Biafra's vocals. I think he is one of the most iconic vocalists in the hardcore punk scene because he just has such a strong personality. His vocals are unhinged and nasty. Sometimes he even sings with a bit of vibrato in order to spice the track up. But really, what makes his vocals so interesting is that he does satire so well. There's so many tracks where he sings in a first person perspective, but he is playing a character, whether it be on tracks like Holiday in Cambodia, where he says the N-word, which is very problematic nowadays, not so much back in the year 1980, but still, I'm pretty sure he said the N-word in character, based on the character he's portraying on that track. But yeah, this is Holiday in Cambodia, and um, it's their most iconic track, and I'm gonna get to it in a bit. But right now, let me just very quickly go through track to track and essentially what they're saying. The album opens off with "Kill the Poor," and it's hilarious because right off the bat, they're singing about something very happy and positive, like there's no more welfare tax to pay, there are no more jobless people, and the reason, the poor people are dead. And it's violent, it's so unhinged, but this is like the antithesis of, oh, we need to help alleviate poverty from poor people so that there will be more jobs and so that they won't have to uh, pay as much. And this is like the opposite of that. And it's so pessimistic, it's so cynical, it's honestly straight up hilarious. Then we have tracks like When You Get Drafted, which is obviously about getting drafted. Politicians playing with missiles like they're toys, warmongering governments, stuff like that. Then we have the track Let's Lynch The Landlord, which is a song that, it speaks for itself. And then we have Drug Me, which is such an angry and violent track about giving in to peer pressure. And then in the second verse, I just want to get laid, I just want to have fun, so drug me, drug me, drug me, which is again, like, listening to this album while being in California hits way harder than listening to this album in any other parts of the world, because I think drug use is so much more prevalent especially in LA. The homeless is so much more prevalent here, and these lyrics just hit extra harder. And then you get the more psychological deep cuts like Your Emotions, which I believe is a track about people who cover up their emotions in order to come off strong and muscular. So we have lyrics like, your emotions make you a monster, your emotions make you a monster, but if you're emotionless, you're fine and you're good. Chemical Warfare, again, speaks for itself. It's about chemicals, it's about drugs, and in terms of guitar playing, this is some of the loudest and wildest on the entire album. Then abruptly and jarringly near the end of the track, we enter this weird satirical waltz, which is funny, unhinged, crazy, and very special. Then we have California Uber Alles, which is, again, one of their most famous singles. And Uber Alles means overall, so California overall. It's almost like a Nazist term. But again, a song like this hits way harder as a non-Californian living in California and seeing how much California influences the world in terms of media, film, music, TV, news, media in general, YouTube. Like, California just holds so much monopoly over the influence of the world. It's actually really scary and egotistical, and it's literally California Uber Alles. Even if the lyrics isn't about that, I can totally feel that way when listening to this track. Then we have I Kill Children. And again, the title speaks for itself. I believe the song is satirizing people who hate children, which is just, again, hilarious. Ridiculously violent. There are lyrics on this track talking about how the main character wants to bang their heads against the door, stuff like that. And then we have Ill in the Head, which has these disorienting guitar chops that really stand out from the rest of the album, really portrays the ill in the head quality, but also the track says a lot about the society's misconception of people with mental illnesses, I guess. Of course, you have the iconic Holiday in Cambodia, which directly references the genocide in Cambodia during the time the song was made, done by dictator Pol Pot, and a bunch of college students who think they're very well educated, who are activists and really care about the world, thinks they can do something to help save the world and rescue the people. They go to Cambodia and they get fucking traumatized, and don't forget to pack a wife, because their wives will probably get murdered or whatever. And it's really dark. I also, at first, when I listened to this track, really think about how a lot of the American military station their soldiers in Cambodia, again, really messed up stuff. It's like, ooh, Cambodia is just a playground. It's not like a whole country with a whole history and with a lot of people. And I really like the spooky descending chords. It's really out there. Then the album ends off with Viva Las Vegas, which is almost a country-esque rock jam. Jello Biafra does a very goofy impression, and by that I mean goofy, like from Mickey Mouse, goofy. And it's a very fun, like, spot-on ending for the album. And overall, yeah, I love this album. And it's amazing that if this album's released today, it would have been just as offensive if it was released in the year 1980. And that's how you know it aged well. Ouch. Okay, so I have to go, so I'm going to wrap this up. I'm giving Dead Kennedys Fresh Fruit for Rotting Vegetables a light to decent 9 out of 10. So have you listened to the debut album of Dead Kennedys? Comments below, let me know. Subscribe if you want more, and thanks for watching. 3 more classics to go. 3 more.